Just make a decision. Indecision. Few things are as frustrating as indecision. When you're caught between two possibilities, and so you find yourself paralyzed and you don't act. You just remain. No decision is itself a decision. It is allowing and accepting what is good enough. What is tolerable. Is allowing life to happen to you. When you find yourself in a place of indecision, you can write a pros and cons list. Of course, you can ask for help. Clearly, ask for help from those that you trust. But it is your life to lead, and you are responsible for the ultimate decision. In the end, it is up to you to make the action, to make the choice, to make the decision, and then take the actions that the decision requires you to take. And the change is going to happen in your life from that decision that you've just made. You don't want to hand that power over to other people and just blindly take their suggestions as directions, authoritative directions. They are suggestions, they are input. Don't disregard their input. Say you're in an abusive relationship. You may be blind to it. Listen with open ears, open mind, open heart. But other people cannot direct your life, only you can. You can just take that as perspectives to take on board and consider. Consider books. There might be books written about your particular situation, volumes of them, that you can explore. Maybe somebody already has been through the problem you're debating back and forth between and has some insight for you. Seek people who've been through the problem that you're deciding between and seek insight from them. Are you considering leaving your current employment? Have some of your coworkers already done this? Do you still keep in contact with them? Touch base with them. How did they go about it? How did they go about their job search? How did they go about notifying your job? How long did they wait? Do they regret their decision? Are they happier where they are, or were there some benefits to your current employment that they weren't aware of because they were too close to the forest to see the trees, just as you are now? So yes, seek outside resources and then make yourself a pros and cons list. Listing on one side, put a line through a piece of paper and write pros, cons, and add up all the positives of making the decision and all of the negatives if you were to make the decision. And then flip it over, do it again. All the positives of not making that decision, keeping things the same. All the drawbacks of not making that decision and keeping things the same, or making the other decision that you're thinking about. You can do, if you do this for as many possibilities as there are, option A, option B, option C is to stay just as it is. And then you add up your pros and you add up your cons and figure out which one realistically has the most benefit for you. And then you make a move. And that is the hardest part, is to make the decision. Even if you choose to remain, that you choose to do that not passively because you're trapped in indecision, but consciously because you clearly laid out all the possible outcomes that you can conceive of. All of their positives, all of their drawbacks, and you have decided that not changing things is the wisest decision. You have officially made that decision consciously, not passively, not because you're trapped in indecision. You've made a decision. There's freedom in making a decision. If there are some other decisions that are other possibilities that are scary, You have to face that fear and make that decision anyway, if it's to your best benefit. Step out into the unknown and just do it. The motivation that comes with decision quickly fades if we don't take action steps toward that decision that we've come to. If you fall back right where you were to as things are and trapped again in the situation of indecision, should I change this or not? Because you never took action toward that decision that you just made. So making a decision will feel initially greatly empowering. And you can come to a decision by seeking outward input from people, seeking outward input from people who've done what you want to do or are considering doing, looking into books and information about the subject, and then writing up a list of pros and cons. Include a pro and a con list for remaining just as it is and not changing the thing that you're considering changing, that you're considering making a change about. From the way you eat, whether you smoke or drink, to changing jobs, moving, any decision you have to make, leaving a relationship, starting a new one. Indecision is a terrible place to be. At least if you decide to remain the same consciously, you will feel more comfortable and competent and comfort in that when you make it as a conscious decision. So make a pros and cons list after you've gathered all the information that you can possibly gather from outside. Use your internal compass, make up pros and cons list, and then you have to take action, because the power and the freedom and the release that comes from finally making a decision will only serve you for 2 or 3 days if you don't actually move on that decision that you've made. Unless the decision that you've made is to stay and remain, keep things exactly as they are, is actually to your benefit and you just hadn't realized it yet. You weren't looking at it with a correct perspective. Then you've already had ultimate freedom because you realize you're right where you need to be. And you don't need to wander around in your head and stew over it anymore, because everything is actually just fine right as it is. And nothing needs to be changed. That's the ultimate freedom. If you realize something needs to be changed, then you find yourself in an interesting position of facing your own fears and making a change. Humans don't like to make change because our brain resists change, because it's meant to keep us safe, and change is scary, and so alarm bells go up and try to prevent us from doing that. We get anxiety and other physiologic and neurologic symptoms that resist change, because change, the unknown, could be dangerous, and our brain is meant to keep us safe and alive. And so although this danger is pretend, it's in your head, it's imagined, the fear is very real, and you have to face that and move on that decision. It can help reduce your anxiety about moving on the decision if after you make your pros and cons list and you decide you're going to do this, you're going to make a change, that you continue to gather information. Like I said, if you're considering switching your job, from those who know, and make an action plan about how to actually go about changing the thing you want to change. So you have some steps to follow, baby steps, and a plan to help you overcome your fear and make that change. Get out of indecision. It sucks. Good morning. Goodbye. Good luck.